Physical activity in grades 1st through 5th grade. There are many known benefits for young children who take part in physical activity during their school day. These benefits do not only affect their health, but also their academic performance. Regular physical activity and education can help build and maintain healthy bones and muscles, and reduce the risk of obesity and chronic diseases, such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and colon cancer. California ranks 24th in overall prevalence, with 30.5% of children who are either obese or overweight. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, these prevalence rates have risen. In a survey conducted by the University of Illinois and compared to state laws and requirements, 4% were found to have met the 150-minute requirement. 29% were found to be very weak, and the other 67% were found to have no PE policy. Physical education in elementary schools is a primary instrument for teaching and preparing children with the skills, confidence, and knowledge of living healthy, active lives. PE in elementary schools are being taught by classroom teachers and do not meet the California physical education requirement. The National Association for Sports and Physical recommends 200 minutes every 10 school days, excluding recess and lunch. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recommends that young people aged 6 to 17 have at least 60 minutes of physical activity daily. The NASPE found that almost 50% of elementary schools did not comply with the PE minute requirement. The absence of compliance is due to a lack of consequences and monitoring, which is conducted every 4 years. Since the Bush administration put into effect No Child Left Behind in 2001, there have been many funding cuts for the physical and health education in our schools. The No Child Left Behind Act has improved standardized scores for American children. It has drawn much attention towards academics and does not address the physical needs of school-age children because of the pressure to produce higher test scores.
What is physical activity? Physical activity can be defined as any bodily movements produced by the contraction of the muscles that substantially increases energy expenditure, including exercise, dance, sport, or any other movement forms. Physical activity can also improve a child's academic performance by enhancing their attentiveness and concentration in the classroom. Physical activity can also reduce a child's anxiety and depression and help them develop a psychological well-being. Today we are seeing the rates of childhood obesity and diabetes increase steadily because of the decline in children's physical activity levels. The increases we are seeing are even more compelling in the low-income communities. These low-income communities have to work harder than others to reduce their academic disparities, and consequently their health is being affected. There are a number of other socioeconomic factors that prevent our low-income children from playing. These include fewer playgrounds in low-income urban communities, or underuse of these fewer playgrounds because of fear of violence around the neighborhood. Low-income children are more likely to see their recess cut from the school day, and their parents are busy ensuring their family's day-to-day survival rather than worrying about their child's physical activity level. Some conclusions that have been found are that the quality and quantity of PE is deficient in K-12 public schools, but mostly in elementary schools. Also, that low-quality PE contributes to the health disparities that we are seeing. With research showing that schools in the low-income communities have the greatest disparities in obesity and health, it is crucial to start providing our children with sufficient physical activity time. PE quality and quantity is critical for those low-income students and ethnic minority communities who are seeing spikes in their obesity and diabetes rates.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margarito Cervantes.
My name is Thao, and we'll be talking about the CHEST data collection for our results. We are comparing the San Joaquin Valley as a region with Madera, Fresno, Kings, and
Recently, we analyzed data information using the California Health Interview Survey, also known as CHEST. We use this to analyze the percentage of children's involved in physical activities. Some of the variables we used were the counties of Central Valley, the number of days children were physically active, and also the age bracket of 5 to 12 years old. First, the data we analyzed of the central region of San Joaquin Valley. We compared it to Madera, Fresno, Kings, and Tulare. The reason why we compared these is most of our data collected for the results were in these counties. Alright, for 7 days, kids were physically active for 57% of the time, for at least 1 hour a day. The least active day was 6 days, and the percentage was 1.3%. Our second data analyzed was Madera County using the chess. Trojans of Madera County were physically active every other day. The most active day was the 4th day at 58%. The second active day was the 2nd day at 7%. This means that children were active every other day of the week. Also, we found that from a suggestion of the National Association for Sports and Physical Activity, found that children should, from the National Association for Sports and Physical Education states that elementary physical activity should include some program of curriculum that provides many opportunities to develop movement competency, which means they should provide some sort of fun for physical activities.
According to the chess data analysis, we did Fresno County, and as you can see, the kids are mostly physically active throughout the whole week. And the smallest percentage that we got was kids being active only 1 day or 6 days out of the week, which was 2.5%. And out of the Fresno County has about 108 kids, so the highest percentage was 36.3%, which was 7 days, which included about 39,000 kids. And as I said earlier, the smallest percentage came out of kids being active only once or 6 days out of the week, which was 2.5%, which included about 3,000. According to the chess database, there's a total of about 13,000 kids, and it showed that the Kings County kids were basically active throughout the whole week, 7 days out of the week. A percentage of 35.5%, which included about 5,000 kids out of 13,000. And they were less active between day 1, day 2, day 6. According to the chess database for Tulare County, about 62,000 kids including this data. And as you can see, they're mostly physically active throughout the whole week, which was about 28% of the data, and it included about 70,000 kids. And the lowest percentage that we got was kids being physically active for 6 days, which was about 3.8%, which included about 2,000 kids.
Alright, so good afternoon. My name is Desmond Brown, and I'm going to bring the methods and procedures. So what we did was we came together and formed a survey that helped us gather information about how much time spent in PE. We interviewed the school teachers, the principals, whoever was in charge of PE education, and got answers for the survey to the best of their ability. So just to show you the survey itself, we were asking them about the time spent in PE. Monday through Friday, we just wanted to average how much time is spent in PE in general. The next one is percent of budget devoted to PE, and that's just asking how much money is spent in general for PE, for the sports equipment or miscellaneous objects for PE. The next one is classroom size, just seeing how many kids are in the class itself, and the school size, just how many is in the school in general. And the next is the type of neighborhood. We were asking if this was a fairly new area or this area's been here for a while. So just gave them 2 options to choose from, urban or rural. And then the next one is socioeconomic status. For socioeconomic status, this was an indicator to show us the socioeconomic makeup of the population in the school. Just showing us who needed the free lunch, how many kids were on it. And for instructor, we just ask for their name and if they were a special instructor or the grade school teacher himself, him or herself. Next, we're going to go over procedure.
My name is Melike Williams, and I'm going to be talking about the procedure portion of our project. For the procedure portion, we decided to investigate different types of elementary schools based on their socioeconomic status to observe the amount of time, buttons, size of the classroom, size of the school, and qualifications of each physical education class. We visited 6 schools, including Carter Elementary, Andrew Jackson Elementary, W.E.B. Dovis Public Charter, Roosevelt Elementary, Cole Elementary, and Miramonte Elementary. Of these 6 schools, each vary in socioeconomic status, classroom size, funds, and physical education. Data was collected by each of us personally visiting each elementary school and asking teachers, principals, and staff questions about the school. We asked questions involving how many days are children required to attend physical education, how long is each physical education class, how many students on average are in each PE class, what types of physical activities are involved in the class, how many students are enrolled in the school, how much of the school's budget goes towards physical education classes, types of neighborhoods they reside in, socioeconomic status of the children and families, and if the instructor is a teacher or a certified physical education teacher. If the staff at the school did not have answers to the questions we asked, we visited www.greatschools.org to find the answers. This website was very helpful as it answered questions involving how the school was ranked, the average number of children in the classroom, the average number of children enrolled at the school, student diversity, the number of schools in the district, grade levels being taught at each school, and much more. We used additional websites to answer questions involving demographics of each school district as well. Data was collected during school hours when we were able to speak to the staff. If allowed, we were also able to observe physical education classes and get a first-hand experience what was being taught at each school and class. With the questions we saw being answered along with online websites and some of us observing each class, we were able to come up with a conclusion.
The data we collected as a group showed some interesting relationships between different schools and the amount of time spent in physical activity. Using the questions we generated as a group, we collected data from 8 different schools. These schools were in the Central Valley, ranging from the cities of Hanford to Madera. 3 of these schools were in rural neighborhoods, while the other 5 were in urban neighborhoods. Our rural schools had an average school population of 580 students and an average class size of 22 students per class. On the other hand, our urban schools had an average school population of 660 students and an average class size of 29 students per class. What this shows is that urban schools had 7 additional students per class and an overall increase of 80 students per school. Furthermore, the rural students spent on average 125 minutes per week engaging in physical activity, compared to only 100 minutes per week for the urban schools. An interesting trend that we noticed was that urban schools had fairly irregular schedules throughout the week. For example, the rural schools had at most 1 day per week where they did not have PE, whereas urban schools had up to 3 days a week without PE. This means that urban students spend less time overall on PE, even though they have longer PE periods. The difference in time spent in PE increased even more when we compared socioeconomic status rather than the type of neighborhood the school was in. As an indicator of socioeconomic status, we chose to use the percent of children eligible for free or reduced lunch meals. For the schools where less than 75% of the children were eligible for free or reduced lunch meals, these students spent on average only 85 minutes per week engaged in physical activity, whereas schools that had more than 75% free or reduced lunch eligibility spent 120 minutes per week in PE. This correlates to an additional 35 minutes per week, or 7 more minutes of daily physical activity for schools with higher lunch eligibility. Moreover, the type of neighborhood the school was in did not highly determine the socioeconomic status of the school population. Rural schools had an average of 86% eligibility, while urban schools had 81% eligibility for free or reduced lunch meals. This means that neighborhood type did not correlate to socioeconomic status. What our results show is that schools in rural neighborhoods with higher eligibility for free or reduced lunch were most likely to spend the most time in PE during the average school week.
There are many differences that had been seen in the different schools that we used to conduct our study. One of the topics that we focused on was the socioeconomic status in the form of free or reduced lunch, and the significant impact that it had on the amount of physical activity that children, grades kindergarten through 5th, would participate in. Even more so then, the type of neighborhood, whether it be urban or rural, had an impact on the physical education that was taught in the school of the Pacific area. It seems like now, more than ever, schools have started to ignore teaching physical education to the younger children. Our results show that rural schools, which have a higher percentage of free and reduced lunches, seem to participate more on physical education than others. Those schools in urban areas with a smaller percentage of students who are eligible for free or reduced lunch don't spend as much time on physical education. Some of the teachers even said that they only get to do physical activities on certain days, and that's only if they have extra time. For a while now, the focus has really shifted towards academics. Health and physical education has been pushed aside. It seems as though now the schools in the urban areas have more pressure on them to succeed and get higher scores on their standardized tests rather than focus and teach physical education. Many of these schools are all about academics, and they usually get caught up with time having to teach and go through all the standards. And because of that, physical education is ignored. However, if they were to put some focus toward physical activity, it would definitely have a positive impact on the children's health and academic progress. Research shows that students in lower income communities have the greatest disparities in obesity and health. And because of that, it is very important to provide children with physical education. Any individual who continues to sit in one seat for a long period of time will start to get bored and their mind will wander. The average attention span of a child between the ages 6 through 12 is about 20 minutes. How should we expect them to sit in a class for almost 8 hours a day, one room, same teacher, for that long? How much information can that child really retain? There are many benefits for students who participate in physical education in schools. Physical education helps improve both health and academic performance. If all schools would teach the children about the importance of health and physical education, it would really be a benefit to each child. However, more research would be beneficial to see the severity of the differences in physical activity and the strength in our results.